Hey, good evening. I'm Bob, the crazy antenna guy, and tonight we're going to put together the Digitek SX91. It's a pretty good antenna. Well, it's a copy, I believe, of the 91XG. Economical, comes from Australia. They're trying to make it here in the US. If it performs half as good as the 91XG, it'll be good, but I would prefer it would perform better. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to put one together. Going to put this baby aside right next to another. We're going to end up we're going to gang 4 of them and see what we get later. So it comes in a bag. The bag has been opened. I opened the bag. It comes in a bag. This is an installer type of antenna. They might become available to the consumer sometime, but right now it's mainly an installer antenna. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get the booms out. One thing I like about this one is the booms are actually made of steel. And so they're a little heavier duty than the aluminum boom at 91XG or some of the other ones. So we'll lay these out, get a look at the parts, and here's an interesting thing I'm going to try to do. Here in Northeast Illinois right now, it's a little cool. The weather's a little bit cool right now. So these reflectors, directors are made of plastic, and they can be somewhat not so pliable. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take them out of the plastic bags. Cut the bag open a little farther, I guess. Did you drop it? Oh. Okay, we're going to drop them into warm water. I got a bucket of warm water here. We're going to get them warmed up. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, I found it's a lot easier to just put your X elements on the boom first. You can do all the other stuff later. These are the X elements are probably the most awkward part of the job. So I've got these warming up in my bucket of warm water, and what you want to do is put the concave side forward. This is the back of the antenna with the first element and the driven element in the back, the balun's in the back, so you can tell this is the back half. And I'll start with the back half, and what I try to do is get them to spread a little bit, put them on, make sure that they're lined up in the groove here, and then you can kind of lean them in one way. That's a pretty loud jet. Okay, and all right, so that's the first one. Usually after you do a couple, they get a little easier. I still got them warming up here. I'm gonna go ahead and put my next one on. All right, so I got one side snapped in, and there goes the other side. Concave forward. Lean it, and the other side, as long as it's a little bit straight, it should snap in like that one did. And that's why I like to warm these up. It makes them a little more flexible, and the job goes a lot quicker. And you can't, it's kind of hard to see when you're pushing forward, or pushing down I should say, on one. You can't really watch it, so I'm just gonna, there we go, snap it in. If you hear 2 clicks, that's right. Keep checking yourself, make sure you're putting them concave forward. Click, click, and you're in. Keeping them warm until the last minute. And they're snapping in pretty good. If they don't snap in right away, just make sure that they're lined up right. Sometimes they can get a little tricky. Also too, if your hands are tender, you might want to wear gloves. And this one hasn't clicked in, so you kind of want to, this is a good teachable moment right here, right now. You can see why it's not going in, because it's not actually lined up right. So we'll get it lined up, we'll push it in. And for some reason wants to keep going off kilter, I don't know why. Sometimes you run into 1 or 2 that's like that. Just be persistent. And there goes one click, and there goes the other. I'm going to start pulling them out 2 at a time now, because we're moving right along. Again, check them for alignment. Sometimes they want to move off kilter. Concave forward, keep checking yourself. We recently put 1 or 2 of them together with the X elements on wrong, and that's because these antennas are installer grade, so the company doesn't feel like it's important to put instructions in. Just another waste of paper, I guess. Probably if you built one, you built 100, so that's probably what the manufacturer's looking at. This one still is, there we go. One side clicked in, and the other side is clicking in. kind of like this idea of warming them up first. It sure makes them more flexible. It might be a difficult job to do outside if it was cold out and your hands were getting wet. Then you'd probably have to rethink this, build it in your garage. But I like to work outside. Like I said, you'll get one or two that'll give you a hard time. A few will go easy and a few will go hard. Usually once one clicks in, got just a couple more on the rear boom. It's probably painful to watch this, probably boring, but I think it's kind of necessary so you know what you're getting into when you buy one of these. The assembly is a little bit tougher. All right, now here's an important thing to know. When you're doing the directors on the front part of the boom, you've got to know which way to orient them. And remember I said concave forward. Well, how do you tell which is the front and which is the back? Well, this is the front boom, this is the back of the front boom, this is a mounting hole where it attaches to the rear boom, and then the front of the very front of the boom actually has a square cap on it. So I know I'm going to put my X directors on concave forward if I follow this rule. Start from the back, take your X directors and go concave and start in the back of the front boom, and you'll just move right on through just like we did the back boom. And I'll tell you, I believe this part, we're going to do a 91XG assembly video, but I can tell you on this particular part of the assembly, this is somewhat tedious, and I'm going to have to put this on a hard surface so I can really push on this thing. Being a complete pain. I get it in the groove and it just wants to rock out. I don't know what the deal is, why some are like that, some are not. But then all of a sudden they suddenly click in and you're back in business. I don't know if it's tolerances or what it is. Like I said, once you get one side to click in, the other side usually clicks in. 2 clicks and you're most of the way there. Don't forget to inspect them, make sure that they actually did click in. Concave forward, just keep that in mind. It's real easy to put a few on backwards, and they're not that easy to take back off. Okay, here's something I wanted to point out. Quality control issue on this particular antenna. One of the mounts never got riveted on, and I imagine they put it on. They They forgot to rivet it, the machine didn't rivet it, whatever happened, and it was here, and then it fell off in the box. Actually, when I opened up the bag, I should say, when I opened up the bag, this was laying in the bag. So it was never riveted. Quality control issue to watch out for. That's the first one I've run into like that. So we're gonna have to come back to that, but we're gonna continue on with the video because we're committed. All right, so we're at the end of the boom here. And I'm suddenly having trouble. We're going to get another warm one. You know, around here, we're about a mile from the shore of Lake Michigan, and that can have a drastic effect on the weather. People 4 or 5 miles west of here are talking about how hot it is, and we're talking about how cool it is. Consequently, on a very hot day, we might be the ones enjoying it. So this looks like one of the X elements, but it's not. There's quite a big size difference. This is actually the driven element. This is what actually picks up your signal and transmits it to the cables into the balun and then back through the cables. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this on concave forward. You can see right here there's some spacers that are put on by the company that you need to use. We're just going to leave the spacers there. We're going to go ahead, concave forward. That's going to determine which way this goes on. Because there's no instructions, I hope this video helps you. We're going to put the nuts back on. And we're going to use a wrench. You don't have to go crazy tweaking this stuff. The bolts are captured, so you don't have to worry too much about holding them on the other side. And these will just tighten up quite nicely for you. There's a little bit of spring built into the driven element, so there'll be a little bit of resistance as you tighten it down. But not too much, so we're doing okay. Like I said, you don't have to go crazy. Easy does it. These are very small 4mm bolts. They will break easily, so now it's time to put the two booms together. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take one wing nut and the star washer. I'll take the bolt out. Now, there always is a possibility that you could actually put this in upside down. Just take a look before you put it together. It's pretty self-explanatory. I can tighten up these wing nuts real quick. Gonna got the two booms together. Have to come back with a screwdriver, tighten those. Okay. Now we're gonna do the under brace. All right, real important that you line up this under brace so that when you put it on, it doesn't line up with the director. So this appears to be the correct place. So I'm going to put these two together. Getting this one in, it's going to take a little bit of elbow grease, not too bad. Put the bolts through. Screw, whatever you want to call it. You always want to be, I guess, a little extra careful not to cross thread. That's not such a big deal on an antenna, but it can set you back if you don't have another screw. Alright, so we got the under boom done. Last thing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the reflector on. Got a wing nut here. Just going to put this here where it's convenient. Here is the reflector. You can see here there's a square hole. You're going to put the square peg in the square hole, so to speak. Make sure you got everything angled correctly. I don't know if there's a correct way. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the the bolt in from the top, because it's going to be easier to tighten up the wing nut from down below if you ever have to come back and tighten it up. I almost put that on backwards. And the wing nut. The reflector is a very important part of the antenna. Okay. Alright, so we've got that done. The only thing left to do is the clamp, the boom clamp, and pretty important part. Don't do it right, she's gonna fall off the mast. So this is actually one of the trickier parts without the instructions. I put a few of these together. I'm going to use one as a guide. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip it over and lay it right in front of the camera guy. And this is exactly how we're going to do it. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have a washer on each side of the nut and the bolt, but I believe they've got they've got these plates that will act like a washer to keep from marring the boom. Okay, we can always go back. Cut. Okay, last but not least, the actual mast clamp. We're going to go ahead and put this on, and you're not going to want it too tight when you go to put it up on the mast. You may need a little bit of wiggle room, so you don't really want to have them on too tight, but tight enough to where you don't lose your hardware, and it kind of keeps things in alignment. So I like this. You can actually, this is a tilt clamp, you can tilt your antenna up above the horizon. If you have trees, you want to point the antenna up a little bit, not too much, but this allows you to do that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to go ahead and conclude it with this shot. We got these two. We've got a third, and then we have one in the garage, and we're going to do some stacking and ganging. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.